Today I'm thrilled to bring you not one, but 4 beautiful decoupage napkin projects and a bonus. These versatile and easy to make crafts will add a touch of charm to your home decor. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Let's gather your favorite napkins and dive into these delightful decoupage projects. So I'm always on the hunt for a great napkin, and I found this napkin the other day on Amazon. We're going to start out by just prepping our napkin so that we can decoupage it. And all we have to do this is unfold the napkin, and I grab a little piece of painter's tape, and it helps me take the back 2 layers of the napkin off. Instead of cutting this napkin, I'm going to use the water method, and I'm just taking a little bit of water on a paintbrush, and I'm just going to take that paintbrush and draw around each one of these quadrants. And we're just going to tear the napkin apart. And this allows the napkin to tear easy. And then once I get ready to decoupage it, I make sure my napkin is completely dry before I decoupage. And for the outer edges, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to lightly coat them with some water and then just do a little bit of a tear on this napkin. And I'll set that aside for a minute to dry. And I found this beautiful piece of fabric at the Dollar Tree. It's just like an eyelet kind of white fabric. And it looks almost like lace, but it's not quite lace. And I'm going to just take my heat press here and do a quick iron on it and get some of the wrinkles out. Now I have this board from the Dollar Tree that's been sitting in my stash for a while. You've probably seen these a lot at the Dollar Tree lately. They seem to have them almost all the time now. And they do come in handy for some of these home decor projects. And you see me here eyeballing how much fabric to cut. And I want to cut enough fabric that I can put this piece on the board, but have about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch on either side so that you still can see that board. And once we have our piece of fabric cut out, I am going to try to fray the edges on this because I want that to have more of a rustic look. So once I have that piece of fabric ready to go, I do place this on a plastic surface because I don't want it to stick to like cardboard. So this is just a piece of extra plastic that I had that was for some packaging, and it works really well for this kinds of things. Now I'm taking my napkin here, and I realize that my napkin is more of a square shape, and so I need to make this more of a rectangle. So I'm just doing the same water method here and just trimming around the edges. It'll fit better on my piece of fabric. Next, I grab my super matte Mod Podge. I really want no sheen on this project, so that is why I'm using this Mod Podge, and it works amazing. So I'm doing a nice coat of the Mod Podge on top of the fabric. And then once I'm satisfied with my Mod Podge, I'm going to take that napkin and gently lay that on top of the Mod Podge. Next, I grabbed a piece of cling wrap and I'll lay that right on top. And I just use my brailler here to roll everything into place. Now carefully remove that piece of cling wrap before anything starts to dry. And I don't want this to stick onto anything, so I actually just clip this onto a holder on my shelf and just let that air dry that way. Now once that piece has completely dry, I grab my super matte Mod Podge and my board, and we're going to just Mod Podge this fabric piece so that we'll be able to glue this onto the board. Now let's grab that cling wrap again and put another layer over the top of this piece of fabric, and I'll use my roller or my brailler to just pat everything down and put everything into place. And don't forget to remove that piece of cling wrap when you're done doing that. And now to seal this napkin in, we are going to put a coat of Mod Podge over the top of the napkin piece only. So if you haven't checked out your office supply area in the Dollar Tree, they tend to have some of these cute little push pens, and these work great for crafting. And I'm just going to remove the push pen, the sharp piece on it, using my pliers here. And I'm going to use these as little button caps. And what we're going to do is we're going to hot glue each one of these into the corner of each piece of the napkin here. And for our final embellishment, we'll hot glue a jute twine bow to the top. And I think this turns out so cute. All of these different textures give it so much dimension, and I just love how this turns out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. So here's another fun napkin that I found on Amazon. And if you're interested, I will link these napkins in my description box below if you like them. So I had a roll of burlap in my stash, and this burlap was from Walmart, and I cut a piece slightly larger than this piece of wood. And this wood I did get from the Dollar Tree. Now, using my super matte Mod Podge, we're going to take a brush and just paint some of that Mod Podge in the inside of this piece of wood. So I start out by just making a rectangle shape and then filling that in with the Mod Podge. And we leave about a 1/2 inch around the outside of this Mod Podge. While the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm going to just lay down that piece of burlap over the top of the Mod Podge. And I'm just using my fingers here to tap this into place, and then I just went quickly over the top with my roller. And once I was done with that, I set this aside and didn't touch it for about a 1/2 hour, and I let this completely dry. So let's prep our napkin. And to prep our napkin, I'm just going to unwrap it, and using a little piece of painter's tape, we can remove the back 2 layers. Now we are going to use the water method on this as well, and I'm just going to take my paintbrush and run a little bit of water around the quadrants of this napkin and go ahead and tear each square out. Now that our burlap has completely dried, I'm going to take some scissors and I'm just going to trim a little bit around the edge of the burlap. And I don't want to trim all of the burlap off. I'm just going to trim the exterior of that piece of wood. And then once we're satisfied, I'm going to go around the outside edge and we're just going to fray that burlap and just pulling strings until we get to where the glue is on that piece of wood. Once we're completely satisfied, we're going to do a quick fit check with our napkin. And I realized that this napkin was just slightly too wide, so we're just going to use that water method again and trim it up. Now, I set that on top of the piece of burlap, and I'm just going to eyeball where it was at. And using my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, we're going to paint a square where the napkin is going to go. And once that's completely dry, let's grab our super matte Mod Podge, and we're just going to paint over the white square with the Mod Podge. While the Mod Podge is still wet, we're going to lay out our napkin on top, and then we'll put a layer of cling wrap over the top of the napkin. And using our roller, we'll roll everything into place. And once this is completely dry, we're going to seal this in with the same Mod Podge, the super matte. Now, while we're sealing this in, I want to tell you guys all about this fun collaboration I'm a part of. Hello Summer, hosted by DIY from House to Home, The Rustic Willow, and Our Gray House. Their links and a link to this playlist are in the description box below, so please take the time and check them out. These are all wonderful creators, and they are doing some beautiful projects for the summer. So please check them out and give them some love. Thanks! Now for some final embellishments. I'm using some hot glue and some buttons, and I really like these blue buttons that I had in my stash, but I only had 2. So what I'm going to do is just alternate these, doing blue, then red, then blue, and red again. Now that's it for this cute little craft. I love how this turns out. I'm not sure which one I like better, if I like the red one or the white one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I love these 2 napkins so much that I'm going to put them both together for this next craft. Once we remove the back back two layers of one of the white napkins and one of the red napkins, I'm going to use the water method to just tear apart the 4 quadrants of the napkin. And for this project, I'm going to need 2 white quadrants and 2 red quadrants. So a few weeks ago, I found these all white fabric bags at the Dollar Tree. So I snagged one of these because I thought this would be a fun project to decoupage. And after I ironed the bag, I inserted a piece of cardboard into the bag. This cardboard inside that bag is going to keep it from sticking to each other when we're using the Mod Podge. And I'm using the fabric Mod Podge, and I'm just going to paint a rectangle that will be big enough for 2 of the pieces of napkin to fit onto. And while this is still wet, we're going to take one of the pieces of napkin and place that very carefully on the top. And then I'll align a second napkin underneath. And I'm alternating napkins here where I did the red one on the top and then the little white one on the bottom. To make sure that these stick down, I actually take a small piece of cling wrap and I wrap that around my fingers, and I just use that to tap down the napkin, which helps me keep from tearing any of that napkin. If you notice anything that's not sticking down, you can take that Mod Podge and the brush and just brush anything back down. And now while that's drying, I'm going to do the other side. I'll do another rectangle and we'll just repeat the same steps. Now once this is completely dry, I am going to take that fabric Mod Podge and use it as a sealer over the top of these napkins. And now for an added touch. I found these window clings at the Dollar Tree, and I really like the one that said freedom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that window cling on the top of our little bag here. And to put this on, I didn't want it to look different because it is kind of that glossy finish. So I used my super matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to just paint a little rectangle down and then place our window cling on top. And now once that is completely dry, I'll go over that window cling with that matte Mod Podge. And this is the super matte Mod Podge. And we'll let that dry. Now here's our finished bag. I think this shopping bag is adorable and very patriotic. I definitely will be using it the next time I go grocery shopping. And if you're enjoying this content and want to see more, please consider hitting that subscribe button below. It really helps my channel grow. Thank you. Now we're going to make a really cute shelf sitter or something that you can put on a tiered tray. And I'm starting out with this red napkin, and we're just going to remove the back 2 layers. And I did find these napkins on Amazon, so I'll put a link down in my description box below. Next, I'm going to take a piece of scrapped wood, and we're going to take our Waverly Antique Wax and just stain this piece of wood on both sides. To do this, I just put a quick layer of the wax over the whole entire piece, and I use a baby wipe and wipe that clean. And now that that's complete and dry, we're going to take our Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. And I'm taking a dry brush, and I'm just going to dry brush on both sides of this piece of wood. And I really just want to do a really light coat of this paint on here. And now I grab my super matte Mod Podge, but you can use whatever Mod Podge you have. And I'm just going to paint a layer on one side of this piece of wood. Speed this along, I did use my heat tool to just lightly dry over the top of this Mod Podge just to give it a head start. And once that's completely dry, I am going to place my napkin over the top of this piece of wood. Next, I grab a piece of parchment paper and I just lay that over the top of the napkin. Now using an iron, I'm just going to iron over the top. And what this is going to do is allow that Mod Podge to warm up so that the napkin will adhere. Next, we just remove that piece of parchment paper and I grab my zip sander and I sand off any excess napkin. If you don't have a zip sander, a sanding block, or an emery board would work just fine. Next, I'm going to take that super matte Mod Podge again, and I'm going to just do a sealing coat over the top of the napkin. And now that that's completely dry, I grabbed these fun stickers, and I found these stickers at Walmart. And I love this one that just says USA, but it has those little like poofy dots on the back, and I want to take those off because I want this to be more flush on my piece. So I did that, and then those stars that were on the side were really bright and weren't really going to go with my farmhouse look, so I'm just going to cover those with a little bit of plaster paint. Once that is complete, I'm just going to flip this over, and I add a little bit of Mod Podge to the back side of the sticker since we took the sticker pieces off. And now I'm going to place this onto my piece, and I'm going to put this right underneath those flowers, making it look like it's hanging from that little flower box. So now I want to distress this a little bit. So I'm using my Burnt Umber Apple Barrel Matte Paint, and I'm just going to take a dry brush and go around the outside edges of this piece. And then I add just a little bit in the center over the top of the sticker, just to get it to where I think it will look good. Now once that is dry, we just flip this piece over and we're going to do the other side. So I'm taking those window clings that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I found this one that says proud to be an American. And I found with these window clings, I really like the matte finish on the Mod Podge, and I'm using the super matte finish for this one because I really want to take that shine away from that window cling to make it look like it's painted on to the surface. And once we have a nice coat of Mod Podge on our piece of wood, I'm going to just set that window cling very carefully over the top. And now I'll take a piece of cling wrap and place that over the top of the window cling, and using my roller, we'll just roll that piece right onto that Mod Podge. And now to seal this in, we are going to go back over the top with that super matte Mod Podge, and this will also give it a matted look, which will make it look like it's painted onto the surface. Once this is completely dry, I did grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and we'll do a little dry brush around the outside edges of this piece. And while doing this, I did end up doing a little bit of dry brushing over the top of the words, and if you get a little bit too much on there, you can just take a baby wipe and just wipe any excess off. For some final embellishments, I'm going to hot glue a jute bow to the top. And for the center of the bow, I'm going to hot glue a button from my button stash. And here is what our finished project looks like. I love this double-sided piece. This is going to look spectacular on my tiered tray. And there you have it. 4 beautiful decoupage projects and 1 twist on a decoupage using that window cling. I hope you enjoyed these crafts today as much as I did. If you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, please be sure to check out our next video, and I have a link for it right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.